Commander Jinwoo stood in the command center of the massive Vorthak warship, his four crimson eyes fixed on the swirling holographic galaxy before him. The star map stretched across the entire room, showing thousands of worlds painted in different colors. Red for conquered territories, blue for allied systems, and yellow for neutral zones bristling with defenses. But there was one tiny dot that made no sense at all. "Show me Sector 7 Alpha again," Jinwoo commanded, his voice echoing through the metallic chamber. Intelligence Officer Teichmann's scaled fingers danced across the control panel. The galaxy spun and zoomed until a small blue world appeared, rotating slowly in the center of the room. Around it, empty space. No defensive satellites, no weapon platforms, no shield generators. Nothing. "This is impossible," muttered Jinwoo, his mandibles clicking nervously. In his 40 years of military service, he had never seen anything like it. Every civilized world protected itself. The Arcadian homeworld had 3 layers of planetary shields. The Zenthari kept a fleet of 1,000 warships patrolling their system. Even the peaceful Melonians had orbital defense stations that could vaporize asteroids. But Earth sat there like a ripe fruit waiting to be picked. "Sir," Teichmann said, pulling up data streams that floated in the air like glowing ribbons, "our deep space reconnaissance confirms it. The humans have some small spacecraft, mostly for trade and exploration. Their military vessels are primitive by our standards. We count maybe 200 ships total, and most of those are scattered across their solar system doing civilian work." Lieutenant Dongmin, a young officer with fresh scales, leaned forward eagerly. "Commander, this could be the easiest conquest in Vorthak history. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Our smallest frigate could probably take on their entire fleet." The War Council around the holographic display nodded in agreement. General Wu Jin, his battle armor scarred from the Proxima campaigns, studied the tactical data. Their population is concentrated on the surface with minimal underground facilities. No orbital habitats, no asteroid mining colonies with defensive capabilities. It would take us maybe a week to secure the entire system. But Elder Admiral Minho remained silent in his hoverchair, his ancient eyes troubled. The old warrior had seen more battles than anyone in the room, had conquered worlds that seemed impossible to defeat. His silence made Jinwoo uneasy. "Admiral." "Minho," Jinwoo said, "you've been studying the historical records. What do you think?" Minho's weathered face creased into deeper lines. "Commander, I've been going through the archives for weeks. Do you know how many species have attempted to invade Earth? A few, I assume. Primitive raids, probably." 37 confirmed attempts, Minho said quietly. "The Rakthani Empire sent a conquest fleet 200 years ago. 500 ships, elite troops, the best technology of their time. They never returned. Not a single ship." The room fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. The Zelkonian horde tried next. Then the Vaktar collective. Then the morphing clans of Andromeda. All of them had the same idea you're having. Now all of them saw an undefended world and thought it would be easy. Minho's voice grew darker. None of them ever came back. Not one ship, not one soldier, not even a distress signal. Dongmin shifted nervously. Maybe they were destroyed by some hidden weapons system? "That's what I thought too," Minho continued. "But here's the strange part. When we contact these species today, they claim those fleets never existed. Their historical records have been altered, as if those invasions were erased from reality itself." Commander Jinwoo felt a chill run down his spine, but his pride wouldn't let him back down. The Vorthak Empire was the most powerful force in the galaxy. Their ships could crack planets, their soldiers were engineered for perfect warfare. Their technology could bend space and time. "Perhaps those species were weaker than us," Jinwoo said, trying to sound confident. "The Vorthak have conquered 17 star systems. We've defeated enemies with superior technology before. We've overcome impossible odds." Captain Kyung-soo, who commanded the assault divisions, pulled up images of Vorthak military might, massive dreadnoughts that could level continents, swarms of fighter craft that blotted out suns, troops in powered armor that could survive in the vacuum of space. "Sir, our fleet is the largest ever assembled," Kyung-soo reported. 3,000 warships, including the new Devastator-class battlecruisers. We have 500,000 elite soldiers, ready for deployment. Our weapons can destroy entire cities in minutes. The holographic display showed the mighty Vorthak armada gathering in the outer system, ships as large as cities, bristling with weapons that could melt steel from orbit. The sight of it filled Jinwoo with confidence. Earth has no allies, added Intelligence Officer Taekmin. The humans trade with a few species, but they have no military treaties. No one will come to help them. Elder Admiral Minho tried one more time. Commander, I've seen the combat reports from our encounters with human vessels. They retreat immediately when confronted. They seem to avoid conflict at all costs. But their ships do things that shouldn't be possible. They disappear from our senses. They move in ways that violate the laws of physics. Sensor malfunctions, Jinwoo waved dismissively. Primitive cloaking technology at best. What if it's not? Minho asked quietly. But Jinwoo had made up his mind. The greatest prize in the galaxy sat there undefended, and he would not let fear of ancient legends stop him from claiming it for the Vorthak Empire. Prepare the fleet, he commanded. We launch at dawn. The stars twisted and bent as the massive Vorthak fleet tore through the fabric of space itself. 3 weeks of hyperspace travel had brought them to the edge of humanity's home system, and now 3,000 warships materialized like deadly flowers blooming in the darkness. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominator, watching as his sensor arrays came alive with data. The ship was enormous, stretching nearly 10 kilometers from bow to stern, bristling with enough firepower to glass an entire continent. Around it, the rest of the invasion fleet spread out, in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming like metallic predators in the starlight. Hyperspace emergence complete, sir, reported Navigation Officer Ji-hoon, his clawed hands dancing across holographic controls. All ships report successful arrival. We are now at the outer edge of the Sol system. Commander Jinwoo moved to the central command platform, his 4 eyes scanning the massive tactical display that dominated the bridge. The solar system spread out before them in 3 dimensions, planets and moons marked with pulsing indicators. And there, third from the sun, was their target. Activate long-range sensors, Jinwoo commanded. I want to know everything about their defenses. Sensor technician Jaemin, a young Vorthak with silver scales, worked frantically at his station. Data streams flowed across his screens like digital waterfalls. Sir, I'm picking up human vessels throughout the system, but they're running away. The main display zoomed in on various points in the solar system. Near Mars, a convoy of human cargo ships was accelerating hard toward the outer planets. Around Jupiter, mining vessels were abandoning their operations and fleeing. Even closer to Earth, military ships that should have been rushing to defend their homeworld were instead pulling back toward the moon. Look at them scatter, laughed General Wu Jin from his position at the tactical station. Like insects when you lift a rock. But Captain Hyunwoo frowned as he studied the sensor readings. Something wasn't right. The human ships weren't fleeing randomly. They were moving in coordinated patterns, almost like they were clearing the way for something. Sir, sensor technician Jaemin called out, his voice uncertain, I'm detecting strange energy signatures throughout the system. They're not coming from the human ships. Weapon systems? Jinwoo asked. No, sir, that's what's weird. They don't match any known weapons technology. The energy patterns are organic somehow, like they're alive. Communications Officer Sunho suddenly straightened at his station, his expression troubled. Commander, we're receiving multiple transmissions from Earth. They're trying to surrender. Put it on speakers, Jinwoo ordered. The bridge, filled with desperate human voices, speaking in dozens of languages. Universal translators converted the words into Vorthak speech, but the emotion behind them needed no translation. Please, we surrender unconditionally, came one voice. Don't land on our world. We'll give you anything you want, but please don't. Come to the surface. We're begging you, said another. Turn around now while you still can. We don't want to hurt you, but if you land here... The transmission cut to static. Jinwoo's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Fear makes them honest. They know they cannot resist us. But the voices hadn't sounded afraid of conquest. They had sounded afraid for the Vorthak. Sir, reported Scout Commander Changmin from the light cruiser, Razor's Edge. I'm taking my squadron in for a closer look at their asteroid belt. There are some interesting structures there. Proceed with caution, Jinwoo replied. On the tactical display, 12 scout ships detached from the main fleet and accelerated toward a cluster of asteroids between Mars and Jupiter. They were fast, nimble craft designed for reconnaissance and hit-and-run attacks. For 10 minutes, everything seemed normal. The scouts reported finding human mining stations, most of them abandoned. Then something impossible happened. Razors. Edge to Fleet Command. Changmin's voice crackled over the comm. We're approaching the largest asteroid. There's some kind of structure built into it, but our sensors can't get a clear reading. It's like the rock is bending our scans around itself. Can you see it visually? Hyunwoo asked. Negative, sir. Wait. There's something wrong with the asteroid. It's moving, but not rotating. It's reshaping itself. The tactical display showed the 12 scout ships as bright dots approaching the asteroid field. Suddenly, 4 of the dots simply vanished. Razor's Edge. Report! Jinwoo barked. Static filled the bridge. Then Changmin's voice returned, tight, with panic. 4 ships just disappeared, sir. One moment they were there, the next that nothing. No explosion, no debris, no distress signal. They just stopped existing. What do you mean, stopped existing? I mean, our sensors show empty space where they used to be. The ships, the crews, everything is gone. It's like they were never there at all. Before anyone could respond, 4 more. Scout ships vanished from the display. All scouts fall back immediately, Hyunwoo ordered, but it was too late. The remaining 4 ships tried to retreat, but whatever was happening in the asteroid field reached out for them too. Their transmissions cut to static mid-sentence, and the tactical display showed nothing but empty space, where a moment before, 12 Vorthak warships had been conducting routine reconnaissance. The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of the ship's systems. 12 ships. Gone. Not destroyed, but simply erased as if they had never existed. Sir, Jamin whispered, his scales pale with fear, I'm detecting those same energy signatures all over the system now. They're getting stronger. On Earth, more surrender transmissions were coming in, but now Jinwoo listened to them with different. Here's, please, came a human voice, female and desperate. We're trying to protect you. Our defenses aren't what you think they are. If you land on Earth, if you get too close to our cities, we won't be able to control what happens to you. We've seen this before, said another voice, an older human male. 37 times we've watched alien fleets arrive at our system. 37 times we've tried to warn them. Please don't make us do this again. Commander Jinwoo stared at the tactical display, watching as his massive fleet advanced toward a world that seemed completely defenseless. But 12 of his ships had just vanished without a trace, and the humans were begging him not to land. For the first time since the invasion began, Jinwoo wondered if Elder Admiral Minho had been right to be afraid. The dawn sky over Earth turned, dark as thousands of Vorthak drop pods screamed through the atmosphere like falling stars. Commander Jinwoo watched from the bridge of the Dominator, tracking each landing craft as it descended toward major cities across the planet. New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, Sydney, every major population center was targeted for immediate occupation. All drop pods away, sir, reported Launch Controller Byung-ho. Estimated time to surface impact 4 minutes. The massive invasion force spread across Earth's sky in perfect formation. Each drop pod carried 20 elite Vorthak soldiers in full combat armor, equipped with weapons that could melt through steel and energy shields that could stop tank rounds. It was the largest planetary assault in galactic history. Ground Commander. Seokjin's voice crackled through the ship's communication system from his command pod descending toward Seoul. All units, remember your objectives. Secure government buildings, capture communication centers, establish perimeters around major infrastructure. Expect heavy resistance from human military forces. But as the first pods touched down in city centers around the world, something unexpected happened. Nothing. Landing successful in all sectors, Seokjin reported, his voice confused. But sir, there's no resistance. The humans are just standing there, watching us. On the main screen, Jinwoo watched live feeds from helmet cameras as his soldiers emerged from their drop pods. In New York's Times Square, hundreds of humans stood calmly on the sidewalks, looking up at the alien invaders with expressions that seemed almost sad. No screaming. No panic. No military response. Lieutenant Hoseok's voice came through from the London landing zone. "Sir, this is beyond strange. We set up our command post in Trafalgar Square, and the humans just moved aside to make room for us. They're not running. They're not fighting. They're just watching us like we're some kind of tragic performance." "What about their military?" Jinwoo demanded. "That's the weird part, sir. I can see British soldiers in the distance, but they're not advancing. They're standing at their posts with their weapons lowered. One of them actually waved at us." Similar reports flooded in from across the globe. In Tokyo, Sergeant Gunwoo found Japanese Self-Defense Forces personnel offering directions to government buildings. In Sydney, Australian military units were withdrawing from the city entirely, leaving behind only empty barracks. But then the equipment failures began. "Sir," Lieutenant Hoseok reported from London, his voice tight with frustration, "our weapons keep powering down. I'll charge up my plasma rifle, and 2 minutes later it's dead. The energy readings show full power, but when I pull the trigger, nothing happens." "Check your equipment," Jinwoo ordered. "It might be damaged from the drop." "We've checked everything 3 times, sir. The weapons work for a few minutes, then just stop. And it's not just weapons. Our vehicles won't start. Communication equipment goes silent randomly. Even our environmental suits are acting up." "From Seoul," Sergeant Namjoon added to the growing list of problems. "Commander, our hover tanks made it 2 blocks before they just stopped moving. Engines running, power systems normal, but they won't budge. It's like something is holding them in place." The most disturbing reports came from the soldiers themselves. Major Youngmin, leading the assault on Washington, D.C., transmitted a message that made the entire bridge crew uneasy. "Sir, the humans. Here they keep apologizing to us, not begging for mercy, but actually saying they're sorry. Sorry for what's about to happen to us. What does that mean?" In downtown Seoul, Sergeant Namjoon found himself face to face with the mystery when he cornered a human woman outside what appeared to be a research facility. She was middle-aged, wearing a simple white lab coat with graying hair and calm brown eyes that showed no fear whatsoever. "You're coming with me," Namjoon said, in heavily accented Standard Galactic, pointing his plasma rifle at her. "I understand," the woman replied in perfect Vorthak, her pronunciation flawless. "My name is Dr. Minji Park. I'm a quantum physicist." Namjoon's mandibles clicked in surprise. Very few humans spoke Vorthak, and none spoke it that well. "How do you know our language?" "We've been preparing for this day for a very long time," Minji said softly. "You should have listened to the warnings your people received. Earth isn't undefended. We simply don't need the kind of defenses you understand." "What are you talking about?" Namjoon demanded, but his weapon powered down again, leaving him holding an expensive piece of metal. Minji looked up at the sky, where the Vorthak fleet hung like dark clouds blotting out the sun. "How many species have tried to invade Earth, Sergeant? Do you know the real number?" What does that matter? 37 different civilizations have sent fleets to conquer our world. The Rakthani Empire 2 centuries ago, 500 ships just like yours. The Zelkonian Horde 50 years later, even more ships. Then the Vaktar Collective, the Morphing Clans, the crystal entities of Rigel. Her voice grew sad. "All of them saw what you saw, a defenseless world ripe for conquest." Namjoon tried to restart his weapon, but the power cells remained dead. Around him, other Vorthak soldiers were having the same problem. Their advanced technology was failing them piece by piece. "Every invasion taught us something new," Minji continued. "The Rakthani showed us that conventional weapons weren't enough. The Zelkonians proved that even the strongest shields could be broken. The Vaktar demonstrated that sheer numbers meant nothing against superior technology." "So you built better weapons?" Namjoon asked. "No," Minji said, and for the first time she smiled. But it wasn't a happy smile. It was the sad smile of someone who had been forced to make an impossible choice. "We built better humans." Across the city, Namjoon could see his fellow soldiers dealing with the same equipment failures. Vehicles that wouldn't move, weapons that wouldn't fire, communication devices that worked only when the humans seemed to allow it. "What did you do to us?" he whispered. "We evolved," Minji said simply, "faced with constant threats from species. Like yours, humanity had to make a choice, stay as we were and eventually be conquered or become something new, something that couldn't be conquered by conventional means. She gestured toward the other humans on the street, still standing calmly, as armed alien soldiers moved among them. "Look at their faces, Sergeant. Do you see fear?" Namjoon looked around and realized she was right. Every human he could see wore the same expression his prisoner did, not fear, but pity. They were looking at the Vorthak invaders the way someone might look at a terminally ill patient. "We tried to warn your fleet," Minji said. "We sent surrender messages, begged you not to land, told you to turn around while you still could. Not because we were afraid of you, but because we were afraid for you." "What happens now?" Namjoon asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. Minji looked up at the alien fleet blocking out the sun, and her expression grew even sadder. "Now you'll discover why Earth has remained unconquered for 300 years, despite having no visible defenses." In orbit above them, Commander Jinwoo was receiving increasingly desperate reports from his ground forces. Equipment failures were spreading. Entire units were going silent. And the humans, rather than celebrating their apparent victory, seemed to be mourning for their would-be conquerors. The invasion of Earth had succeeded completely. Not a single human had raised a weapon against them. But somehow, that felt like the most terrifying thing of all. The third day of the invasion began with a report that made Commander Jinwoo's blood run cold. Battalion Commander Ki-hyun's voice crackled through the communication system, filled with panic that no Vorthak warrior should ever feel. "Sir, the entire 47th Assault Battalion has vanished. I'm standing in their last known position in downtown Tokyo. Their equipment is here, their vehicles are here, but the soldiers, they're just gone. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no trace they ever existed." Captain Hyunwoo pulled up the tactical display, watching as unit markers blinked out one by one across the planet's surface. Red dots representing Vorthak forces were disappearing at an alarming rate, not from battle casualties but from complete disappearance. "What about the supply convoys?" Jinwoo asked, his four eyes tracking the movement patterns on the holographic map. "That's even stranger, sir," reported Logistics Commander Tae-hyung from the surface. "I personally watched Convoy Delta 7 leave the landing zone in Berlin. 20 hover trucks, full escort, clear road ahead, but when the next checkpoint called for their arrival time, we checked and the convoy never existed. The depot has no record of loading it. The drivers aren't in our personnel files. It's like reality rewrote itself to erase them." The reports grew more disturbing by the hour. Major Yoongi, commanding forces in the American Midwest, transmitted what would become his final message to the fleet. "Sir, something impossible is happening down here. I just watched Corporal Daeho walk straight through a concrete wall, not blast through it, not find a door. He just stepped forward and passed through solid matter like it was air. When I called out to him, he looked back at me with these empty eyes and said he couldn't remember why he was supposed to stop at walls anymore." Jinwoo leaned forward on his command throne. "Explain that again, Major." "It gets worse, sir. We were setting up artillery positions to shell the human population centers, make them surrender unconditionally. A human child, couldn't have been more than 8 years old, walked up to our biggest plasma cannon. She just looked at it, and the shells we were loading began to fade away. Not disappear, fade. Like they were becoming less real until they just weren't there anymore." The transmission cut to static. "Major Yoongi, respond." Hyunwoo barked into the communicator. "Silence." "Sir," whispered Communications Officer Sunho, "according to our records, we don't have a Major Yoongi. We never did." A chill ran down Jinwoo's spine. He pulled up the personnel files himself. No Major Yoongi, no record of his unit, no trace that any of them had ever been part of the Vorthak military. Dr. Eunji, a human xenobiologist captured during the Seoul operations, sat calmly in the interrogation chamber aboard the Dominator. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair, wearing simple civilian clothes. She showed no fear as she faced 3 Vorthak interrogation specialists. "Tell us what's happening to our soldiers," demanded Intelligence Officer Takeman. "They're experiencing the transition," Yoonji replied in perfect Vorthak. "What you call disappearing, we call integration. They're becoming part of a reality that's more flexible than the one you're used to." "That's impossible," Takeman snarled. "Matter is matter. Energy is energy. Physical laws don't just change because you want them to. Yunji smiled sadly. They do when you exist partially outside the dimensions where those laws apply. Your people see the universe as fixed, solid, unchangeable. We learned that reality is more like water than stone. It can be shaped by those who understand how to touch it properly. She gestured toward the metal walls of the interrogation room. Your weapons fire energy through three-dimensional space. We exist partially in the fourth, fifth, and sixth dimensions. It's like trying to shoot a shadow with a laser. The energy passes right through because we're not entirely where you think we are. How is this possible? Jinwoo demanded over the intercom. 300 years ago, we faced the same choice your species faces now, Yunji explained. We were being invaded regularly. Every few decades, another alien empire would arrive thinking Earth was defenseless. The Rakthani nearly succeeded in conquering us. The Zelkonian horde killed millions of humans before we drove them back. The interrogation room fell silent as she continued. Our scientists, our philosophers, our spiritual leaders all came to the same conclusion. We could keep building bigger weapons, stronger shields, faster ships, and eventually we'd lose to someone with even better technology. Or we could transcend the need for those things entirely. You're talking about evolution, Taekmin said. That takes millions of years. Biological evolution, yes. But conscious evolution? That just takes the will to change and the knowledge of how to do it. We developed techniques to expand human consciousness beyond the physical brain. We learned to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. We discovered how to manipulate matter at the quantum level using focused intention. She stood up from her chair and walked toward the wall. The Vorthak guards raised their weapons, but the energy rifles powered down the moment they tried to fire. Watch, Yunji said simply. She placed her hand against the metal bulkhead, and her fingers began to sink into the solid steel as if it were thick liquid. The metal rippled around her hand like water, completely unharmed, but somehow no longer solid. We don't use technology anymore, she explained, her hand still partially phased through the wall. We became the technology. Every human on Earth can manipulate matter, fold space, exist in multiple realities simultaneously. We are our own defense system. Taekmin backed away, his scales pale with terror. What happened to the previous invasion fleets? We gave them the same choice we're giving you, Yunji said, withdrawing her hand from the wall, which solidified again instantly. Continue your aggression and be gently relocated to a pocket dimension where you can build whatever civilization you choose, just not in our reality. Or leave peacefully and warn others that Earth is protected by forces beyond conventional warfare. Relocated, Jinwoo's voice came through the intercom. The Rakthani Empire now exists in a parallel Earth, where they were never opposed. They think they successfully conquered our world centuries ago. The Zelkonian horde rules over a version of humanity that never developed beyond medieval technology. Every invasion fleet that refused to leave peacefully now lives in a reality, perfectly suited to their desires, where they face no opposition and can expand as much as they want. But that's impossible, Taekmin whispered. You keep saying that word, Yunji replied, but you're watching your soldiers phase through walls and your weapons refuse to fire. Your supply convoys are being edited out of existence. Your personnel, records are rewriting themselves. At what point do you accept that your understanding of what's possible might be limited? On the bridge, Jinwoo stared at the tactical display showing his invasion force dwindling by the hour. Entire divisions were vanishing not through combat, but through some incomprehensible process that seemed to gently erase them from reality itself. The humans had never fought back with weapons. They had simply allowed the Vorthak to enter a reality where being a conquering alien force was no longer a sustainable existence. His soldiers weren't being killed. They were being transformed into something else, relocated to somewhere else, or simply edited out of the story of this universe. For the first time in his military career, Commander Jinwoo understood that he was facing an enemy that couldn't be defeated through superior firepower, because they existed beyond the realm where firepower had any meaning at all. Commander Jinwoo materialized in the middle of Busan's city center, but something was terribly wrong. The bustling Korean metropolis he had seen from orbit was now completely empty, except for abandoned Vorthak equipment scattered across the streets. Dropships sat silent and powerless, their hulls already beginning to fade like old photographs left in sunlight. His communication device crackled with desperate voices from what remained of his invasion force. "Commander, this is Captain Seungmin, from the European theater. My entire division just stopped existing. I can see their equipment, but I can't remember their faces. It's like they were never real." "Sir, Ground Commander Byung-yu here. I'm standing in Times Square, but I'm the only Vorthek left in the entire city. The humans are just going about their normal day, stepping around our abandoned vehicles like we were never here." Jinwoo tried to respond, but his communication device powered down. When he looked at it again, the device was starting to become transparent, as if reality was slowly forgetting it existed. "Hello, Commander." Jinwoo spun around to find a human child standing behind him. The boy couldn't have been more than 10 years old, wearing a simple school uniform with a name tag that read Junho Park. He had kind brown eyes and a sad smile that seemed far too old for his young face. "You're the one who decided to attack our world," Junho said in perfect Vorthek. His pronunciation flawless despite his age. Jinwoo raised his plasma rifle, but like all Vorthak weapons on Earth, it refused to power up. His hands trembled as he held the useless piece of metal. "Your people, what are you?" he whispered. Junho walked closer, and Jinwoo noticed that the boy's footsteps made no sound on the pavement. "We're what you forced us to become. Every invasion taught us that being merely human wasn't enough to survive in a galaxy full of predators, so we became something more." The child gestured toward the empty streets around them. "Do you know what happened to your soldiers, Commander? They're not dead. Death is such a primitive concept. They've been relocated to realities better suited to their desires." Relocated? Sergeant Namjoon, who captured Dr. Minji 3 days ago, now leads a successful colonial expedition on a world where humans never evolved past the Stone Age. He's quite happy there. Major Yoongi commands a fortress on a planet where he faces constant winnable battles against enemies who can actually be defeated with conventional weapons. Junho's expression grew sadder. Every Vorthak soldier who came here seeking conquest has found exactly what they were looking for. Just not in this reality. They exist in dimensions where their understanding of warfare still has meaning. Jinwoo looked up at the sky, where his mighty fleet of 3,000 warships had been hanging like metal clouds. Now they flickered like mirages, their hulls becoming translucent. "What's happening to my fleet?" "The same thing that's happening to you," Junho replied. "You're being offered a choice, the same choice we've given to 37 other invasion forces over the past 3 centuries. The boy walked to a nearby bench and sat down, patting the spot beside him. Despite everything, Jinwoo found himself sitting next to the child who was casually dismantling his entire invasion. 300 years ago, Earth was attacked by the Rakthani Empire, Junho began. They were much like your people, proud warriors, with superior technology who saw our world as easy prey. They killed millions of humans before we managed to drive them back. "How?" Jinwoo asked. "Nuclear weapons, mostly. We turned half our planet into radioactive wasteland to stop them. The survivors realized that if we kept fighting alien invasions with conventional warfare, eventually we'd destroy our own world or lose to someone with even better weapons." Junho picked up a small stone from the ground and held it in his palm. As Jinwoo watched, the stone began to change, flowing like liquid before reshaping itself into a perfect crystal. Our scientists, philosophers, and spiritual leaders worked together on something called the Transition Project. Instead of building better weapons, they found ways to expand human consciousness beyond physical limitations. We learned to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, to manipulate matter at the quantum level, to edit local reality through focused intention. "That's impossible," Jinwoo said, but the words felt hollow. "You keep using that word," Junho smiled. "Your weapons can't fire because we exist partially outside the dimension where energy has meaning. Your ships can't harm us because we can fold space around ourselves. Your soldiers disappear because we can gently move them to realities where they'll be happier." The crystal in Junho's hand transformed again, becoming a tiny model of the Vorthak fleet. As Jinwoo watched, the miniature ships began to fade. "We don't want to hurt anyone," Junho continued. "Violence is such a primitive way to solve problems. But we also can't allow our world to be conquered. So we offer every invasion force the same choice. What choice? Leave peacefully, return to your empire, and warn them that Earth is protected by forces beyond military comprehension. Tell them that humans have transcended the need for conventional defenses by becoming something that exists beyond the reach of conventional warfare. Junho stood up from the bench and looked directly into Jinwoo's four eyes. Or continue your invasion and be relocated to a pocket dimension where you and your entire empire can build whatever civilization you choose. You'll find a perfect Earth. They're populated by humans who never developed beyond medieval technology. You can conquer to your heart's content, expand across the galaxy, face enemies you can actually defeat with the weapons you understand. But it wouldn't be real, Jinwoo said. It would be completely real to you and your people. You'd never know the difference. The Rakthani Empire has been successfully ruling their version of Earth for 3 centuries. They're genuinely happy. There. Jinwoo looked up at his fleet, now so translucent he could see stars through the hulls of his mighty warships. And if I choose to leave, then you return to your empire and tell them what you've seen. Warn other species that Earth is not the easy target it appears to be. Help prevent future invasions that will only result in more forced relocations. Why give me this choice at all? Why not just relocate us immediately? Junho's expression grew infinitely sad. Because every species deserves the chance to choose its own path. We've learned that forced solutions, even gentle ones, aren't truly compassionate. Free will is sacred even when it's wielded by those who would conquer us. The boy began walking away, but as he moved, his feet started to sink into the solid pavement as if it were water. Reality bent around him, walls becoming permeable, gravity adjusting to his needs. "I need an answer, Commander," Junho called back. "Your fleet is already halfway to its new reality. In 60 seconds, the transition will be irreversible." Jinwoo looked at his reflection in a shop window and saw a warrior whose entire understanding of the universe had been shattered. The Vorthak Empire's greatest invasion force had been defeated, not by superior weapons, but by an enemy that had evolved beyond the very concept of conflict. He thought of Elder Admiral Minho's warnings, of the 37 previous invasion fleets that had simply vanished, of the humans' desperate surrender transmissions that were actually attempts to save their would-be conquerors. "I choose to return," Jinwoo said quietly. Junho smiled, and suddenly the boy's feet were on solid ground again. "A wise choice, Commander." The fleet in orbit solidified, becoming real and substantial once more. Jinwoo's communication device powered up, filled with confused voices from his soldiers, who found themselves back on their ships with only fragmentary memories of the surface. "Tell your people," Junho said, walking backward through a solid wall as if it weren't there, "that Earth is defended by humanity itself. We are our own weapons, our own shields, our own fortress. We learn to protect ourselves by becoming something that doesn't need protection." As the Vorthak fleet began its retreat from Earth's solar system, Commander Jinwoo understood why the galaxy's elder species spoke of the small blue planet only in whispers. It wasn't fear of Earth's weapons they carried, but awe at a species that had solved the eternal problem of survival by transcending the very nature of threat itself. The boy named Junho walked home through walls that parted like curtains, under a blue sky where no invasion fleet would ever find purchase again, leaving behind only the eternal truth that some defenses are so perfect they become invisible to those who still think in terms of war. The end.